Hey Sentinel fans, it's great to be back. So I'm now in Manila. Siyempre, Manila Sentinel. What good is it if I'm anywhere else in the world? It's only been a couple of days since I got back from the States, and I still have to go through unpacking and all that. But anyway, I was prompted to do a video as a reaction to one of the last videos I saw while I was in the States, and it was what the guy called an airline or in-flight EDC. As soon as I saw the opening of the video, I quit watching simply because it was all BS from the first 3 minutes. And why do I say that? In the past, I've done my self-reliance kit video, and in that presentation, I showed that I have a full kit. I have something like a hiking kit, and ultimately, I have some sort of a pocket survival kit. And as soon as I got back to Manila, I immediately packed that small Altoids tin style kit in my bag simply because there are certain things I could not bring with me to the States. And again, the nature of the area, the nature of travel, simply it precluded me from bringing my favorite folders and stuff like that. First, let's deal with the subject of airline travel. I've not been, I've not had that much experience traveling abroad, but definitely I have practically been to almost every island in this particular archipelago, and I've traveled extensively by air. So I have some idea of the realities of an in flight EDC. Suffice it to say that if you're building a kit or if you're building some sort of a survival kit for airline travel, it's not the same as preparing something for the urban environment or the outdoor environment. It's different. You can't they're not the same. First off, let's deal with certain realities like it's so difficult to pack anything that's metal. So if you're thinking of packing particularly tactical pens, which are mostly made of aluminum or titanium, then I'm sorry to say that one, it can get flagged or confiscated, and two, deal with the reality of do you really need a tactical pen in flight? So that's a really big question to ask yourself. In general, ask yourself if you really need to be armed in a flight. For me, any survival kit, regardless whether it's in flight, whether it's urban, whether it's an outdoor survival kit. As for me, one of the most important things to have in a survival kit is a cutting tool. And if you're thinking of bringing a cutting tool to a plane, on a plane, it's virtually impossible to do that. And I don't advise anyone to try and attempt to do something like that. It's just going to get you into trouble. Already during my local travels, I encountered difficulties like it's not a very good idea to get flagged. And most of the time, I get caught with a cigarette lighter, and that was about it. Cigarette lighter or even gaffer's tape. That's one thing that always got confiscated during my air travel experience. So that's one thing that really discourages me from building an in-flight survival kit. The simple reality is, do you actually need it? Now, to answer that question, I have found myself in situations where I really wanted to have a blade with me, and this is to open airline packaging, food packaging, every time they serve you up some meals. And there have been quite a few instances where I really, really wanted to have a blade with me. But then again, that's the reality that we have to live with. And it's near impossible for anyone to have a blade on them in flight. So it's not necessarily a good idea to try and smuggle in a blade during a flight. The next reality is, what good will a tactical pen or any impact device serve while you're flying? You're mostly seated on a plane and takes at least 13 hours to fly from San Francisco to Taipei. In general, it takes about 15 to 18 hours for to travel to the United States from Manila. So in a long haul flight like that, there's mostly nothing to do but try and read a book or sleep. And that's about all you will do in a plane. So for me, having some sort of a tactical kit in flight is totally out of the question. And if you noticed my previous video on minimalist EDC, that was all I actually carried while I was in the States. The half micra, which we have here, just this half micra, and the jet beam mini one. Now, this particular combination was all I had while I was in the States. And honestly, this combination solved 90% of all the problems I encountered while I was in country. The only time that I really, really wanted at least a folding blade was when I was doing food preps, because somehow the knives in my mother's apartment were not that sharp, and there were no decent sharpening tools around. So that was the only time that I really, really needed and wanted to have a decent folder on me. But other than that, there's really no point in bringing weapons anywhere unless you're an operator who needs to go downrange and perform direct action missions, unless you were going to a war zone or somewhere that's really completely chaotic. I don't see any point in bringing weapons along in your travels. Even if you placed it in your check-in luggage, there are some countries like Hong Kong, for example, and the European Union, where traveling into the country and out of the country, they prohibit passengers from bringing any sort of weapons. So that should be enough reason not to bring any weapons on a flight. In my analysis of that particular in-flight EDC video, for me, the core of any decent survival kit is having a blade on it. So in the 4 decades that I've been practicing EDC, in the 4 decades that I've been an EDC practitioner, the blade was always the cornerstone. It was always the core of my EDC. Having a pocket knife on me, having a cutter on me, a razor blade or something is the core of any of my survival kits. So without that, I can't personally call it a decent survival kit. So as for 2024, how did I modify my pocket EDC survival kit? This is my pocket EDC kit. I've shown it briefly during my survival or self-reliance kit video. These are the components that I believe are necessary for my survival. It may or may not apply to you, but for me, a pocket EDC kit is essential because it will be the only thing on you at all times. It's nearly impossible for you to leave this thing at home. This will be in my pocket at all times. Of course, depending on where I'm going, because there is a razor blade, or there are a few razor blades here, and of course a big lighter, so it cannot go with me to certain places like on a plane. But just the same, a blade is the core of this survival kit. Actually, it has several blades on it. So that to me is one way of getting around, or one way of ensuring that I have a survival kit, on me at all times, anywhere and everywhere I go. I have this. Although I was not able to bring this on my recent US trip simply because I just didn't want the hassle, or if ever I get asked why I had this, I just don't want to go through that kind of a hassle. Now, this particular kit is no bigger than a pack of cigarettes, so it's nearly impossible for you to leave it at home. And in it, as we open the kit, we have the usual suspects. I open up with a big lighter, toilet paper from an MRE, high tensile strength thread. I have a pencil. I have a combination cap lifter and P38 can opener. I have a combination whistle and fire starter, ferro rod, surgical blades, and suture kit. Plus, I have pre-packed flame extenders. And I've upgraded. I carry another spare blade, which is the Wazoo mini ceramic folder, and it's a really, really tiny thing. It's a really tiny razor blade. So that's about it. Um, it can be used as a ferro rod striker. Nice thing is it's non-magnetic, so I can place it next to my magnetic compass. It's not going to throw my bearings off. And that's basically it in as far as my survival kit goes. Just an added note on the tactical pen. Most of the tactical pens available in the market are usually made of metal. So as such, they will definitely show on the radar. They will turn up on the scanner. A scanner will be able to pick it up. If not by the material, it's by the shape. So it's really pointless to bring something like that on the plane. What you do with it on the ground is your business. At any rate, that's my take on building a decent survival kit with a blade as a core. And again, the sad reality is it's pointless to bring a blade on a plane in this day and age. I remember of a time when I boarded a plane with Tecna folding knife and the Victorinox Walker. So those were the days, and those days are gone. But if you're talking about a pocket EDC that you can have on you all the time, then the pocket EDC survival kit is the only way to go, in my opinion. At any rate, I would like to thank all the loyal viewers who've been with me the past 2 years. This month, July, marks the second year since Manila Sentinel Raw, the video series, went on air. Manila Sentinel has been there for the last 12 years as a blog, as an article. So thank you guys for supporting my efforts. I don't go for the likes, I don't go for the subscriptions. I just want to reach out to people who have a practical sense of readiness, and that's it. I don't sell products, I don't endorse anyone unless I believe in the product or the service. And in the future, we'll have more topics. Stay tuned for upcoming training classes and hopefully more of the slingshot and more of the EDC stuff. And as always, that's been the long and the short of it. This has been Absabando for Manila Sentinel. Raw, make your lives emergency proof.